Hi, everybody. I am here a little later than I normally am. Usually I'm here at 2 p.m. and I'm doing the daily dose of drumming. And I was working on some extra stuff here tonight. And I just got the urge to do a quick drum lesson for beginners. And I just really wanted to get it on video. I'm not used to being on live at this time, so I thought maybe I'd get to see some other people than I normally do. And this is really also testing some sound stuff that I messed around with. So thank you for humoring me. I hope you're doing well. And I just wanted to do a quick little drum lesson for all the drum set players, all right? This is for specifically anyone that is playing drum set at a beginner, intermediate level. So this is just a very simple suggestion. Everybody, when they start drumming, they get into wanting to do really cool fills and all that, they try to get fancy as soon as possible. Everyone gets excited when they're young drummers. So a very easy tip for making your fills sound a little more interesting when you're still new and young is to fill in one of the notes that you want to play with your bass drum. And when you do that, it gives it a different sound. It still could be just straight notes. But by replacing your hands, which is what everyone does naturally when they start doing their fills, if you replace a note or a couple of notes with your bass drum foot, it gives it a different sound and a different feel. So I'm going to just play a basic rock beat. And then I'm going to play what would be considered the standard kind of drum fill. So it goes like this. Here it comes. All right, that is like drum fill 101. So what I'm suggesting is that instead of playing everything around the drums with your hands, which has a very kind of monotone sound to it, you can replace a note or a couple of notes, a group of notes, with your foot. So the first, I have two suggestions. There are 16 notes, not to get too mathematical, but there are 16 notes that you're playing when you do a basic fill like the one I just did. So the first suggestion is that if you do it in groups of four here, four, and four, play 3 of them, and then the last one replace with your bass drum foot. That immediately gives it a different sound and a different feel to it. So I'm going to play the same thing twice. The first time I'm just going to do my hands like a basic fill. The second time I'm going to replace that 4th note of each group with the bass drum. All right, so it sounds like this. One, ready. Now comes the new fill. 1. I'll do it one more time. Regular fill. Now with the bass drum. 1, 2. Okay, so that's one example where just by putting that bass drum in, it's got a different feel to it, and a different sound, and it gives you a different flavor. It also could be used in a like more funk kind of sound than a rock kind of sound. So, Albert, if you're joining, definitely show Isaac this so he can incorporate it. So the other example that I'm going to give, basically, and again, I don't want to get too mathematical, but basically, if you've got 16 notes, one of the coolest, early licks that everyone loves to play is right, left, bass. So you play. All right, and that is something, and you can play it super fast, and it's not that hard. So if you go right, left, bass, and this is assuming you're a right-handed drummer. If you're a lefty, you replace it, left, right, bass. But if you play right, left, bass around the drums, that'll give you 12 notes. And out of 12, you've got 16 total. So the last 4, you can play on the snare drum or really do whatever you want. But to just give you one simple example, I'm going to do triplet, or not triplet, really. That's a bad teacher. It's groupings of 3. It's not triplets. All right, Jed, don't get me on that one. So you're going to play 3 right, left, bass. Then you're going to move to that drum, that drum, that drum. And then you got 4 notes left, so I'm just going to play it on the snare. So the fill will sound like this. If we're doing 16th notes, 1 E and a 2 E and a. Okay? The fill will be like this. 1, 2, ready, now. All right, so you've got your 16 total notes, and it's a cool sounding fill that's perfect for early drummers in their career. Now, I did it where I moved my hands around the drums. Another pretty simple version of the exact same thing is to keep your left hand on the snare drum and just move your right hand around the drums. It's got, again, a different sound to it. So instead of going, it's going to sound very similar, but it's got a little different feel. You keep your left hand low, and you do the right hand loud. So now the melody, if you think of it as a melody, is in your right hand, and you're moving it around the drums. Your left hand is just filling in sound there. Still just basic 16th notes. So now we went from playing a basic drum fill. That's the first thing that a lot of young drummers learn. Now I'm going to do an example of the basic drum fill, and then around the drums, right, left, bass, okay? Try it on your air drums, everybody. Here we go. 1 and 2 and 3 and go. Basic beat first. 1, 2, regular fill. Now the new fill. Right, left, bass. 1, 2, ready, and. Now the variation, where I keep my left hand on the snare. 1, 2, here we go. All right, so we started with basic. Then we did the version where I move my hands around the drums, and it's all flat in volume. And then the most kind of advanced or nuanced version was where my right hand was the melody. And then by doing that, kept the left hand as more of a filler note just to keep the rhythm flowing. And that, to me, has like a cooler sound. Anytime that you can create changes in volume, it's more interesting. It's like inflection in your voice. If I talk to you all in a monotone, which my voice kind of does that anyway, but if I'm talking, like a robot where everything's the same sound, that's kind of the same way if you, as a young drummer, approach, then everything's got this same, you know, sound to it. There, the interesting part is that you're changing the drums that you hit, so that makes it a little more interesting. But when you can keep, awesome. Sorry, I got a little comment there. Practice this, Isaac. When you're able to change volumes as well as surfaces, you're creating more variety. And in general, when you're a young drummer, you know, the first step is creating the coordination and the comfort to be able to do things, but your vocabulary will increase as you create different variations in what you play. If I'm just sitting here playing the same basic beat, I could do 10 versions of the same fill by changing the dynamic, the volume, and by changing the things that I hit. So I encourage you to, you know, try a different, you know, variations and try different things out. But I will demonstrate it one more time. I'm going to play a basic fill. Then I'm going to play the first thing I suggested, which is 3 on a drum and 1 on the foot. And then I'm going to play the 2 right, left, bass around the drums with the extra notes at the end because we got to get to 16. So I'm going to do all 3 consecutively. All right, here we go. Basic beat. 1, 2, ready, now. Starting with a regular fill. Ready, and. Now, 3 plus 1, as I call it. 1, 2, here we go. Now, right, left, bass. Here we go. Ready, and. Okay, so again, those are 2 suggestions on ways that you can make your fills more interesting in a basic context. Try different variety, different surfaces, different volumes, and you can get a lot of mileage out of those, you know, simple fills. So that you're not always just playing hands only as a young drummer, as a beginner. You want to be able to incorporate all your limbs, and you want to be able to incorporate a lot of cool sounds.